Hello and welcome to an update of the Hungry Bin started according to manufacturer's instructions. So I'm thinking that today I'm going to do first harvest, but before I do that, I'd like to feed these guys up and check on them and see how they're doing as well. Well, the top looks good. All of this, it's castings. They're very nice, moist and flaky. So this stuff, can't complain about it. And this is the food we gave him last week. They're still working on it. But really only the shell is left. The majority of the insides have been eaten away. And sprouts, very, very common. Just turning over the material in the very top layers. So everything looks good here. So these guys, I'm not gonna bother them too much. I'm interested in harvesting today more than anything else. And this feeding is just routine. They're weekly feeding. So let me do that and then we'll move on to our harvest. I have some of the paper here prepared for them. Dry bedding goes first. And they've got a nice big moist feeding. Did I mention stinky? Boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. To get all that out of here. So glad this is in the basement. You have no idea. And now they're going to get some butter, and that's just some oyster shell. So you can see this is a nice large feeding for them. And all I'm going to do now is just put some of the material that's already in the bin on top and cover it up, and we'll leave these guys to it. I'm not gonna bug them. And let's go down to the harvesting area. Okay, so here we are at the bottom, and I undid the clasps holding this tray, both sides. And now I'm gonna try not to make a mess. I'm gonna try to see, because I'm doing this with one hand. Well, okay. Okay. Come on. Because of the way that this bin is constructed, a lot of the material is so compacted here that it just doesn't go down into the tray, and you need to scrape out the bottom. So I found that to be the case with my previous attempts to harvest. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but the thing is, is according to the manufacturer's statements. This bin is designed to give you leachate. Lots and lots of liquid coming at the bottom for you to use. Since there is a lot of controversy about using leachate, and since I do not use leachate, this is not a system really that I can recommend for people who just want to use the castings. So I do try, and I still am going to try to make this work for me, but you can see that I'm running it very, very well. And the material is not wet at all. It's moist. I don't want to squeeze because I've got worms in there. It's moist, but I don't want leachate. And at the same time, I don't want the stuff getting stuck at the bottom there. So, I mean, I'll keep doing the harvests every about 2 months or so as not to get the material stinking wet. But so far, there are no smells. And the worms actually that are in here are alive. But this is not my idea of a good harvest. So let me put this back on top. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened with some of my video footage. It got deleted, or anyway. As I was saying, I put the worms back on top here, and also the compost that will go through one more time. And I will harvest it about every 2 months or so. And you saw the difference between the material that was coming out the bottom and the beautiful flaky moist castings at the top, which is what the worms are producing for me here. So, I mean, if you're the kind of person who likes to have all that liquid at the bottom, and that's what you use in your garden, and you don't mind the wet castings, because castings can't be dry if they're constantly being watered down as the liquid is saturating them. So obviously the material at the bottom is wet, and if that's what you use and you're okay with that, and you don't sift, and you don't bait your worms out, then really this system will work for you. It's just that I have not been able to make it work for me for what I need, and that is simply moist, not wet castings. I don't use worm tea. I don't brew the worm tea, nor do I use the leachate. I will repeat it over and over again that I do not feel comfortable using leachate. So this is the update. Just a little bit of a harvest, nothing really even to brag about. Nothing came down, and I have a feeling that in the future I will still have to scrape the bottom to get any castings out, because it gets really, really compacted here, and it doesn't always fall into the tray. And I know I'm not the only one who has that issue. I've seen people do YouTube videos where they literally put sticks, PVC pipes, and they just kind of put them down there and mix everything in so that the stuff will fall into the tray. I'm sure that's not something that people think that they're going to have to do when they're purchasing such an expensive system. So anyway, this is the update, and we'll see what happens on our next harvest. Thanks for joining me.